All right, let's jump right in. If you've ever had that spark of an idea for a business, or even just wondered how your favorite local spot stays in business, you've definitely asked yourself this one big, kind of scary question.
Right? I mean, this is the big one. It's the huge gap between a cool idea and an actual sustainable business. Is this thing I'm dreaming up actually going to be profitable? Well, let's dive into that because the answer is way more straightforward than you think. Once you know the secret.
So, on the surface, it looks super simple. We've all seen this equation in some form. You take the money you bring in, subtract the money you spent, and whatever's left is your profit. Seems easy enough. But this simple little formula is hiding something.
Yep, the real key to figuring out if you're gonna make money, the thing that lets you make smarter decisions, is all locked up inside that one little word, costs. Because, as you're about to see, not all costs are the same at all.
This is really the first big breakthrough. If you want to see into the future of your business, you have to learn to speak the language of your costs. And that language is all about understanding how they behave.
And honestly, it all boils down to this one single distinction. On one side, you've got your fixed costs, and on the other, you've got variable costs. Getting the difference between these two isn't just accounting, it's like a business superpower. So what exactly are they?
Okay, so a fixed cost is kind of like your business's anchor. It's the stuff you have to pay for no matter what happens. Think about your rent or that monthly software subscription you need. It doesn't matter if you sell one thing or 1,000 things, that rent payment is the exact same. It is fixed.
Now, a variable cost is the total opposite. It's tied directly to your sales. It literally only shows up when you make a sale. So for that coffee shop, it's the actual coffee beans, the milk, the cup, for every single latte they sell. The more lattes they sell, the more they spend on beans. If they have a slow day and sell nothing, well then that variable cost is zero. It grows right along with you.
And this is just a perfect real-world example. So White Grizzly Adventures runs this amazing snowcat skiing company. The cost of their lodge, that's a fixed cost. It doesn't matter if one person shows up or if they're fully booked, that cost stays the same. But the fuel for the snowcat, that is 100% a variable cost. The more trips they take up the mountain, the more fuel they burn. Simple as that. And costs can get even more interesting in the real world. Check this out. For this kayaking company, there's a park rule. They need one guide for every 5 guests. So their guide costs don't increase smoothly one by one. They jump up in chunks. One guide can handle guests 1 through 5, no problem. But the second that 6th person books a tour, bam, a whole new guide salary just got added to the payroll. It's called a step variable cost, and knowing that is crucial for their business. Okay, so now we know how to split our costs into these 2 different buckets, right? Fixed and variable. So what? What do we do with that? Well, we use it to find the single most important number for any business, your first major milestone. This is it. This is the break-even point. We're not even talking about profit yet. This is about survival. This is the exact moment where your business stops losing money. You've paid all the bills, and you're finally standing on solid ground. And the best part is, you can calculate this number with incredible accuracy.
And don't worry, it's a super simple 2-step process. First, you figure out something called the contribution margin. All that is the bit of money from each sale that's left over to help contribute to paying off those big fixed costs. You just take your selling price and subtract the variable costs for that one item. Then for step 2, you take your total fixed costs for the year, all your rent, salaries, everything, and you divide it by that contribution margin number. And what you get is pure magic.
Let's just say your total fixed costs are $50,000. And let's say after your variable costs, you have $50 left from each sale. That's your contribution margin. You divide 50,000 by 50 and you get this number, 1,000. That's not a guess. That's not a hope. That's your target. That's how many things you need to sell to pay for everything. And here's why that number is so powerful. When you sell unit number 999, you're still technically losing money. But the moment you sell unit number 1,000, you've done it. You've paid all your bills, and every single dollar you make from unit 1001 and every unit after that is pure, straight profit. That's the crossover point. That's when the whole game changes. But it gets even cooler and a lot more strategic. Because understanding your costs isn't just about finding your break-even point. It's about deciding what kind of business you actually want to build and what kind of risks you're comfortable with. So, this unique mix you have of fixed and variable costs, that creates something called operating leverage. And you can think of it just like a real lever. A long lever lets you move a huge boulder with just a little bit of effort, right? A business with high operating leverage is just like that. It has really high fixed costs, but super low variable costs. And as we're about to see, that creates a very specific kind of risk and a very specific kind of reward.
Just look at this. We've got two farms. Sterling Farm has high fixed costs. Maybe they bought tons of expensive automated equipment. Bogside Farm has low fixed costs, but their variable costs are higher. Maybe they rely on hiring lots of people every season. Now, when sales are great, look at Sterling Farm. They are crushing it. Profits are through the roof. But see what happens when sales drop by just 20%? Sterling's profits completely tank. While Bogside, well, they take a hit, but it's a much softer landing.
And that right there is the essence of operating leverage. A high-leverage company is playing a high-stakes game. It's way more risky if there's a downturn. But when things are good, the profits are absolutely explosive. Think about a software company. Massive fixed cost to build the software, but it costs them basically zero for each new customer. That's high leverage. A low-leverage business is safer, maybe like a consultant, where costs just grow steadily with each new client. So you see, your cost structure isn't just an accounting detail. It's a strategic choice about the personality of your business.
So after all that, what's the big idea? What's the one thing you should walk away with that'll change how you look at any business?
It really comes down to these 4 things. First, always remember, the most important thing about a cost isn't the dollar amount, it's how it behaves. Second, get into the habit of immediately separating every cost into one of those 2 buckets, fixed or variable. Third, use that knowledge to calculate your break-even point. That gives you a concrete, real number to shoot for. And finally, understand your operating leverage, because that tells you the story of the risk you're taking on.
Look, once you understand this secret language of costs, you're not just guessing anymore. You're not just hoping an idea will work. You can actually model it, you can test it on paper, and you can map out a real path to making money. You've gone from hope to knowledge. So the only question left is, with this new power, what are you going to build?